Hi everybody, how we doing? Welcome to the first, it's not quite a session, but it's the interview of all the cast for The Scales Above. We have one this week and one next week with a few others. We're here to answer some questions and get into what make these characters tick. But before we get into that, I'm introducing you to the cast. Roll for damage. All of us would like to say thank you very much to our sponsors, Hero Forge, who do custom minis and recently finished an amazing Kickstarter campaign to get 3D colored miniatures. They'll be coming soon to the general public, and we have some videos coming out pretty soon to showcase that. And also a huge thanks to Dungeon Fog for sponsoring us. If you want a map making program, head over to dungeonfog.com. You can also check the panels below. They have an awesome product, which I'll also be using for this campaign. Actually, probably all my campaigns now. They're really, really good. So that about covers that. If you want to find out more about us at Roll for Damage, you can look in the panels. We have Twitter and Discord and YouTube and all the other places you might find people online. But yeah, let's introduce you to the cast, or half the cast, because the other half is coming next time. So to start with, we'll be introducing Nia, played by Wystle. Say hi.
Hi, my name is Shelby. I'm from the channel Wystle While You Work, where I tell stories of my D&D adventures while drawing whatever fun fantasy comes to mind. You can find me on YouTube at Wystle While You Work, spelled Wystle, on Twitter at WhistleWis, or on Instagram at Wystle While You Work, and I'm really excited to be returning.
Yes, these guys all played in the Ruffians campaign, which our next person introduced himself, Agent Number 1, playing Saros, was the DM for.
Yeah, I'm Agent Number 1, also known as Kieran in real life. I'm really excited for this campaign. I'm just admiring the nice background. This is the first time I've gotten to see the new stream background, so I'm really excited. I'm excited to answer some questions and do some interviews.
And lastly, we have the DM for Wonders and Blunders, so Kieran's usual DM, Mike Fardy, who is playing Leaf.
Hello, I'm Mike Fardy. I'm the DM for Wonders and Blunders, and I'm playing a catman in this game. And I'm already so afraid.
So I know some of the people in the chat have probably seen me DM agents, suffered through it a few times, but Mike and Wystle have not really. They have had the pre-campaign where I kind of gently introduced them to my DM style.
Okay.
I was kind of, the gloves were on, so to speak. But when the campaign starts proper, they'll be off and things will have stakes. So I'm going to have Producer Veg be watching the chat. He's going to be messaging me any questions you might have for the cast as I go through just like a list of sort of standard things. And when we get to the end of that, you can ask people anything and we'll see what they have to say. So, guys, firstly, I want to know, how long have you all been playing D&D?
Who do you want to go first?
We'll go through the order I went the intros for. So let's go with you, Wystle.
Well, I'm a new little baby in D&D terms. I will have been officially playing for about 2 years in December, I think. I think that's when I first started playing, in December of 2018. So I'm fairly new. And I have a couple campaigns under my belt, and I've tried a few different systems, but I always gravitate back to 5e.
Okay. Agent.
I've been playing at least like 15 years, maybe earlier than that. When Mike Fardy and I were little kids, we grew up like 2 houses away from each other, and we played D&D. I think it was like AD&D, I think was the edition that we had. And so we played it once when we were like 5 years old. And then I didn't play it again until high school when I got like really, really into it.
Okay.
So a
Mike?
long time.
Yeah, my grandmother, I guess, had me pinned as a dork like real early. and gave me a little AD&D box set. So I have a terrible memory for when I was a child. I actually don't remember that game that we played, Kieran, but I don't doubt that we did it because I did have that little thing. I would say, like, I have played a couple of games, but for the most part, I think it's been in the last 5 years with the crew, pretty much the whole Wonders and Blunders crew in Toronto. I started running a game out there, just a very strange, mostly improvised homebrew game. And that's where most of my experience has come from.
Okay, your grandmother would have been like around during Satanic Panic times so her thoughts on D&D, giving you a box set's a bit. She's like, I'll get him in the cult early.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she might have more seen me as, you know, a small devil early. I'm not sure. But yeah, woof AD&D for sure. Those poor little fantasy mans.
Yeah. All right. So you guys have all played other systems, but what do you like most about D&D or D&D5e in particular?
For me, D&D has always been a roleplay experience, and I've always kind of had an interest in acting and voice acting, and I started playing my more serious games through Discord. So there was never a camera, it was never face to face. I got to really flex my love of voice acting and trying to write characters. And that's something that I think value more above like everything, is building a story with people. It's such a fulfilling experience for me. And it's even better like now that I have like a log where I can go back and I can kind of like have a little bit of nostalgia where I can like relive some of these really fun experiences. So for me, it's just being able to build a story and kind of forget about the world for a minute.
Which is more than fair in today's climate.
Well, it's just getting to enter this fantasy world and like collaborating with others and being creative. I've always had a love of creative outlets, and it's allowed me to like grow so much just as an artist because it's made me try so many new things. So that's probably what I like the most about it.
Okay, Asian answer.
My favorite thing about D&D and just in general, I guess, like tabletop RPGs is just the ability to do whatever you want. I mean, like ultimately, like whenever you play a video game or something, like you're always limited by the rules of the world and really like you're forced down certain paths. And I mean, unless you're a really bad player, you still have to kind of follow some rules. But I like the freedom that it really just like lets you follow whatever kind of wacky idea you've got. You can go through with it. As for 5e in particular, I think they've just done an amazing job with this system. 3.5 was like the system I played for years and years to death. And, you know, by the end of it, I had like 140 PDFs of different source books and everything. And then when 5th edition came along, they were like, yo, you need like 2, you know? Everything was just so much more streamlined, so well balanced generally. And I think they did a really I just think they like knocked it out of the park with this system.
You said like you need 2. I look here at my character creation books, and it's just like
yeah, I mean, I got like a stack of books behind me and you know, all the stuff on D&D Beyond. It's been building, but you know, in 3.5 it was you know, if you wanted to play like a fighter, you had to have the complete warrior and everything. And
I used to play Pathfinder, which is effectively the 3.5 derivative. But I remember we'd show up to where we were playing, and there was like a couple of the guys would have like travel backpacks, which would like be around because like their waist and their shoulders, because it was like filled with books and it was heavy. It's like 30 kg of books. Like that's what, like 70 something pounds, 75 pounds. It's just so heavy. So yeah, completely understand. I just had a message from producer Veg being like, you can ask the questions as well. I'll do it next time. These 3 guys today, myself, Sean, and Shannon next week. So you'll have to wait for me Mike, what do you like about D&D?
I think for me, like I've always been a big improv guy. Like all of my like comedy career, like all of that started in improv, and there was no way for me to go to a group of friends and be like, do you want to do improv scenes for 4 hours? They would absolutely say no every single time I tried. But when you attach a rules system to it, everybody's down. So that's kind of what it is we all get to sit down and make each other laugh and get just ludicrously deep into characters. So many people don't realize how good they are at improv until they get into Dungeons and Dragons, when they just like blow you away with these amazing character choices and stuff that, you know, people who think they could never get on stage or anything like that, like prove that completely wrong with it every time. I love that, just improvised storytelling with a bunch of your friends.
Yeah, that's probably what started with me as well. Just like group of friends just getting around and be like, we do, like someone's like, I do this. It's like, oh, and like just spawns a thought of maybe together we can now do this, and then it just grows. And it's a lot of fun. Right. So I'm gonna ask you some questions mostly about your characters now. So if you have things you want to keep secret, we'll keep that secret. So what class and race / species are you playing, and why?
Well, I'm a little girl who is in a group that she shouldn't be. That's all I'm going to tell you guys. But in terms of why, she's actually a character I've had for a long time that I've tried to play before. She's a character, actually one of my first characters I made, that I've been trying to play for the better part of 2 years now. So it's nice to finally have a game where I can both play her and enjoy her and all of her childish glory.
Now, when you're like, she's a little girl who's just like with a group she shouldn't be, I immediately got a scene from a movie in my head, and hopefully everyone's seen the original Men in Black, where they're at the shooting range, and he's like, just pops the little girl in the head, in the cardboard cutout. It's like, why is she here? She's reading books way too advanced on the wrong side of town. I'm like, that's kind of near. Like, she's this little girl, but why is she there?
it is, honestly, that's pretty accurate. She's someone that really, you don't expect her to be there. Why the hell is she there? And I think that's my favorite part about her character, is that she's just, why is this child here? Where are her parents? Where is her guardian? And it's become like a running joke that I think you guys will really like.
Okay. Kieran?
Okay, I'm playing Saros Starweaver, who is a human and is, I guess, best described as a wandering acolyte. And what was the second half of the question? Like, why are we playing this character?
Yeah, why are you playing them?
Well, I mean, I just keep seeming to come back into shows on this channel. I'm not really sure how. I mean, I think I've played a lot of different characters now in 5th edition, so I'm always kind of looking for something I haven't really seen done, or just like a weird combination. Saros was built almost entirely around the feat Mage Slayer, which gives you just advantages for fighting melee combat against wizards and spellcasters. And I'd never seen anybody actually take this as a feat. It's such a cool sounding feat. I always thought it was like, wow, what a cool idea, just fighting wizards and stuff hand to hand. And so that was kind of the primary motivation behind him. He spawned from that, and from conversations that Nova and I had, and just spiraled horribly out of control from there.
Before I jump through to Mike, I just looked across at one of the questions. The character's going to be lawful good, chaotic evil, or what? Yes. Is pretty much the answer. I worry for the party and for the soul of poor little baby Nia. Mike.
I do too.
Tell us about
I'm playing.
There you go.
I'm playing Leaf, Soaring in the Wind. Leaf is a tabaxi, and he is like a wandering thief, with a heart of gold. And I think, yeah, around the same as Kieran now. I look at different feats and different combinations that I've never really seen before. I basically always play a character who is kind of in the periphery of the party. I'm sort of a forever DM, so I tend to play like comedic relief, someone who's just kind of there, just like a chaotic fun sidekick. And this time I'm challenged to play a character who has a bit more like control over situations and is kind of like a shot caller, which is going to be a real challenge for me. But I built the character to be good at calling the shots and really supporting everybody while also kind of trying to lead the charge a bit.
Okay. That kind of covers my next question as well, as kind of what style of character you're going to play, but you kind of covered that a little bit in your answers. If you have any more information you want to give about that, go for it. I'll give you guys a second to answer that.
I think honestly, the last show I played a character that was extremely outside of my norm. Arrow was, just a passive aggressive bitch to everybody she met, whereas Nia, I typically play characters that are either very endearing and sweet, or I play very motherly or big sister kind of figures. So it's fun to be able to get back into what is my norm, to kind of flex my role play muscles with characters that I'm a lot more confident playing.
Okay.
I mean, I've been the last couple of campaigns I've played on the channel. I've played very friendly, affable characters, and Saros is extremely severe. I don't know if we can talk about like the character tropes and stuff as well, but he was built to be in this kind of opposition role within like our 5-man structure, 5-player structure, and so I'm it's really hard to play someone who's a jerk, I find, and I'm always trying to I'm always trying to find the good in him and being like, no, I had to do this because of
I don't know if I
X, Y, or
consider him a
Z.
jerk. He's just kind of scary.
The thing is,
Yeah.
Kieran is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Even like he's kind of told me off before, but like it's always like, but it's in this way that you're like, oh, that's so nice, and you're like, I don't understand how you've managed that, but you are, yeah. So for you to play a nice character, you're like, yeah, cool, that makes sense. For you to play like, as you sort of said, like a jerk, it's like, oh, this is going to be hard for you.
I'm excited for it.
Mike?
Yeah, this is going to be really hard. This is going to be really hard for me. My characters always have the worst ideas for what to do. Like, I'm very good at thinking of what should not be done next and then saying that as the character. And now if people are supposed to be listening to the plans that I'm coming up with, that is going to be wildly dangerous for everybody.
I mean, I would argue that Sloop's idea to fucking blow up the warehouse was a fantastic idea.
I mean, I loved it, but I don't know if Leaf is going to be able to make those same calls.
Flawed leaders are always the best. So, because you actually have to be like, if you make a mistake which gets your guys hurt, you're going to be like thinking about that, and that weighs on you a bit. So you have to then reanalyze. And I think there'll be some really good growth with Leaf because of that if he survives. Because the few sessions we've played as like a pre-campaign, so everyone gets used to characters, he has taken a horrendous amount of damage. And to Litwiki in chat, it's really hard to be a jerk. Maybe we should reanalyze some things about myself. Yeah, me too, buddy.
I think honestly, Kieran's DM style spoiled me for this because I was not prepared for how brutal you can be.
Yeah, they had like one actual combat, and oops. I'll let them explain that later.
It was
Actually, so I'm gonna fold a couple bits here. I'm gonna ask like 3 or 4 questions. I'm gonna go to one character at a time, go through all of it, and we'll do some art reveal, I think. So we'll start with Nia or Wystle. Can confirm Nova is yeah, thanks. Yep, that's me. Where did you draw inspiration from for Nia? Is there any homebrew that you're using for her in this game that you can share? And does she have any sort of like magical items that she has? So like tie all 3 of those into your answer.
Okay, well, yes. Nia actually, well, it's not immediately obvious, but Nia, a lot of who Nia is actually draws from a lot of myself. She's a character that I wrote when I was going through some shit, and when I go through shit, I typically tend to write or draw as a coping mechanism. And a lot of who she is stems from shit I've had to work through. I actually kind of think of her as myself when I was a teenager. Very naive and wanting to believe like the best in everything, and on the verge of figuring out that no, people just kind of suck. As far as homebrew, yes, I don't think it's much I can share though. And she does have some magical items. I don't think I can share that either though, unless you're okay with me sharing that, Nova. I think I should probably keep it a secret.
You might want to keep secret exactly what it does, but you can sort of tell them what it is, like what it represents.
Well, Nia's that little if you look at the little the portrait that Bree did, the beautiful portrait that Bree did, that little medallion around her chest is a magic item. It is a symbol of Bahamut. It's very, very precious to her. I can't tell you what it does. You'll find out. But yeah, that's a magic item. That's probably one of the only really nice things she has on her, because her armor's fairly, armor's okay. Her clothes aren't particularly super like fancy, but like her sword and her little necklace are 2 like very valuable things to her. So
okay. Also, might as well add this. What about the numbers? Tell us about what your character's stats are.
Her wisdom is terrible. I don't know if I can tell the exact numbers.
Yeah, you might as well. They're going to be on the screen when we actually stream anyway. The game.
In terms of strength, she's not that strong. She's only got an 8. She's fairly dexterous and has a decent constitution, both at 14. Her intelligence is okay. She's fairly averaged at a 10, but her wisdom's a 6. So she's just very naive and borderline stupid in some of the decisions she makes. But she's very likable with a 20 in charisma.
Yeah. And as you can see from the art, she is a ice mage of some sort. So yes. You guys can, now that you have the stats and the art, maybe you can put together a bit more about what she is. All right. Next up, we have Saros. Tell us.
Okay. Inspiration for Saros. He was there's a couple of different things, I guess, that kind of put it together. I'm a big fan. I like grew up watching a ton of kung fu movies, and I'm really into I don't know, a lot of like ancient Chinese and Japanese culture, ancient Asian culture, ancient everything culture, really. I'm a big history nerd. And I think the meteor hammer is a really cool weapon. So that's what you can see in Saros's hands there, is it's this idea of it's basically a rock on a chain that you swing around and you kick and you hit things. In terms of homebrew for the character, it is his homebrew thing. It's basically just a flail. I think it's basically just a flail. but it is I think there's something different about it. I can't remember. It might have some magical abilities too. It's I have to keep those hidden. In terms of stats, you can actually see, if you can go to the left-hand side of the screen, thanks to the D&D Beyond extension we have here on Roll for Damage, you can click on our character portraits and see our stats. So I'll tell you a little about Zeros. He's dexterous and he's wise. That's about it. He's terribly uncharismatic. He has a 6 in charisma. Which really goes to show how unlikable he is. But he's fast and he generally has a good idea of what should be done in a situation. He can't really think through the plan, but he has a good way of getting out of hairy situations. Other inspirations. I'm sure Mike will talk a fair bit about Firefly, but we wrote some of our characters together. They come from like a shared background, shared backstory, and so we drew little bits out of the show Firefly for the characters as well. So there's a little bit of that there in his personality as well, just in terms of the kind of lifestyle that they lead, and they're kind of like morally gray ethics and stuff like that. So
Veggie asks, does this mean you're playing Jane?
Yeah, I'm playing a mixture of Jane and I can't remember
Zoe?
the name of the other character. Zoe, thank you.
Yeah.
I just blanked. Yeah, it's a mixture of Jane and Zoe, is where a lot of it comes from. So
Yeah, cool. All right. How about you, Mike?
Big Firefly inspiration. Trying to think of a very flawed leader. So I went to Mal from Firefly. Took some of that with the, that sort of cowboy aesthetic. Some of the clothing, got the brown coat, got the Cad Bane hat, the bounty hunter sort of vibe. The homebrew, there's a bunch of Nova homebrew in the class, but I don't think I put any homebrewy stuff in there, or really made any requests. No,
you were just like, can I be a cat? I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And yeah, so we worked on like what Nova gave me some options on the furry scale of how furry I was going to be, and I said 110%. So that's where we got with my sort of lynxy bobcat style, big fuzzy cheeks, little stubby tail, and yeah, just lots of rootin' tootin', crossbow shooting. He's got that very pretty sword on his hip is got some magical properties, which even he doesn't fully understand. So I definitely can't get into it with y'all right now. Stats wise, I mean, I've never rolled stats this good.
Yeah, yours are really good.
I rolled some absolutely amazing stats, and watching him play, you will never guess that his stats are that good, because I do not roll over a 10 on anything that I do.
You're just getting all of that out before we go live. That's all.
Yeah,
his character is horrendously unlucky.
Yeah,
it's really
that's
sad.
it has become one of his traits. He is extremely unlucky.
Can we make that a feat where 3 times a day I can choose to make you re-roll something, as opposed to the regular lucky feat, which makes you 3 times a day choose to re-roll something?
Yeah.
I think you're
I feel
torturing
like
us enough, Nova.
Fair enough.
I do need better dice. I should throw my dice in jail for sure.
So what are your stats
Yes.
at?
dice.
My stats, the notable ones, I got 20 dex, got 18 charisma, real likable, 15 intelligence, 13 con, 13 strength, and then the little old 7 in wisdom. He's a pretty smart guy, but he don't learn too good.
Everybody's dumping wisdom.
Yeah.
both Nia and Leaf having wisdom dom stats is interesting, especially when it's like it's the party leader having no wisdom means every now and again you'd be like, yeah, we got to do this. It's for this. It's for whatever. And there's just someone be like, wait. Have you thought this through? Not at all, but we got to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be an interesting dynamic, I think.
It'll be fine.
Right. So usually we would take a bit longer going through those questions, but the sheer amount of questions I now have to ask you guys from the audience means I kind of was like, all right, we'll go through some of this. So the first one is actually just from me to Nia from our Discord, and I thought we'll make it for this stream, which is how many other games has Nia been in, and what has changed between her now and her then?
Well, actually, I had this prepared because this is the campaign book I've been using, the notebook I've been using for our game. But this is also has all of the iterations of Nia written in this because this is the one I consistently use for her. So Nia, I've played in 3 other games. One of them was an something I attempted to broadcast on my channel, and she's taken a lot of different turns. She's always retained that naivety. But if I have to think back to like the minute I decided I want to make a character like this was a video that Esper the Bard put out about dragons and dragonoids that got me really interested in like monster lore, and it led me down a rabbit hole into making a sorcerer. And then little Nia was born, and then she went from a sorcerer to a wizard, a divination wizard, went back to a sorcerer for a minute, and now she's whatever the hell she is now. I don't really know how to explain her now. So she's had a lot of twists and turns, and I feel like the Nia that's coming on screen now is a combination of everything, because before she was so wildly naive, it was ridiculous. Then she had a lot of like anxiousness, and now I feel like I found like a happy medium between like her more worrying aspects and her more like, I just want to believe that everybody is as good as they possibly can be. And so I think after how much has changed, it's not much. I've just played with dials a little bit to find the happy medium that I think Nia is now.
To just comment on what Viper of Heretics is talking about in the chat. Yes, I used to play a couple of Fantasy Flight games which had critical hit tables, and it's pretty much just those tables, specifically from Dark Heresy, taken and converted to D&D. So as opposed to being like, this is explosive damage because they're throwing bombs, it'll be like, this is fire damage or thunder damage or something. And all the
awful
text have been. It's amazing.
Awful kit table. It's killed so many of my friends.
So Mike's character actually had a bit of a dangerous experience with this table already, because there was a creature that was nicknamed the Burning, and it burnt him, and he now doesn't have one of his arms. It's actually the arm that's firing the bolt, the crossbow in his art. So we're gonna have to find a way to make him whole again, especially since no one in the party has the regeneration spell, and they're very hard to come by and expensive in my world. So
You could just have us find a scroll of regeneration.
nah, that seems too easy. I think Mike likes the challenge of being a one-armed cat.
Yeah, I love the challenge of being the one-armed crossbow guy with crossbow expert as a feat.
Yeah, you just. Sorry, buddy.
No,
moving
great
right
because
along.
I'm going to be throwing some homebrew in now with homebrew prosthetic rules. So that's what I'm going to be throwing at you with the homebrew stuff.
Oh, it was bad.
Nice. Right, so this one's from Sci-Fi Scribe to everyone, which we kind of answered already with what were the influences behind your characters and why did you choose them? I think we've covered that pretty well so far. You think? Nothing else to add to that? Okay. From I know her as AJ, but Sarahama. For everyone, what are you most excited for this game?
Honestly, I think I'm most excited just to learn about everyone else. That's kind of what I come into most games, is learning about everybody's characters. But this party, the last time I was on, we fell into a party dynamic just immediately, and it just happened to complement each other and work really well. We are a much more mixed bag party in this one, so I can't wait for us to kind of get to know about each other and kind of figure out our party dynamic, because right now we're just kind of a wandering group of weirdos and with like a plot hook that's keeping us all together. But I can't wait to see us kind of growing as a party.
Yes, I always do find it a bit worrying when the only thing keeping a party together is the plot hook. You kind of like, come on guys, just mesh a little bit, and then when it comes to the point where they start like helping each other out and saving each other, which I guess they've kind of done to Nia a little bit since she got locked up because she's a horrible criminal. And the party was like, all right, we should go find our small child. And in the process, cause more problems. But yeah, they've kind of been doing
a story of that will be out very soon. So look forward to that. I actually have a story where I'm animating some shit from that.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. And if I prefer to, I that's also what happens if they manage to hurt an enemy enough, they can have critical effects, and if the enemy then gets away, well, they'll be coming for revenge. Like, you took my arm, how dare you? So we'll see how that goes. Right, from Cat09 for players. How did you decide on the personality for your characters? Do you like to use a diverse set of personalities or lean towards one particular type, from Catastrophe or Cat?
I think I already partially answered this. I kind of tend to stick in like two camps, and I went out of my comfort zone for Agents game. So for this one, I'm just... Nia's such a joy to play, just to get myself in such a carefree headspace. So I don't know, she's just someone who's so easy for me to slip into. I think that's why I fall into it so easily and why I enjoy playing her so much.
All right. Agent?
I guess I think we often kind of play characters that show a facet of ourselves. I think from my original training was as like a theater actor, and I think no matter like what part you do, if you do a good job with that, you bring a part of yourself to that character. And in D&D, where you're making up your own character, you're really always kind of highlighting a weird part of yourself in a certain way. But I don't know. I always like to try and play, every time I play a character, I like trying to play something that's very different from the last one. No matter if that's like personality wise or skill wise or I'm always trying to test out different classes and stuff like that, or different combinations. So yeah. If that answers the question, I don't even know.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Mike?
I feel like I kind of try to fire it as far away from me as possible. And just like Leaf is, he's supposed to be cool and calm and collected and in charge and knows what's going on. And that is like the opposite of me. And then the part that sort of like cracks it into place, I feel like, is when your personality kind of pulls it back closer to you. So I tend to watch a lot of stuff that I get a lot of my inspiration from watching things. So I watched a lot of Firefly and a lot of Cowboy Bebop, and tried to just like take that, Spike's cool, calm demeanor, and then Mal's like fierce, don't screw with me loyalty, and tried to do that as well as I could. And then me failing at that is what Leaf becomes. And that's and then I just try to like embrace those flaws and the fact that I can't do those things. And that's usually where my characters come from.
I really like characters that both have like strengths and then flaws, like obvious flaws, and maybe then again more subtle ones as well. Because I'm not sure if everyone else can hear the plane going over my house very close. Anyways, good. If you guys have any flaws you want to talk about now, go nuts, because they are. Yeah, I do really, really enjoy that side of things. I think your flaws more than your strengths make your character.
Yes, most obvious one is just her trust and the level of trust she's willing to put in people. But I think the more subtle one that I think has poked through a little bit is that she's a very insecure person. Like deep down. She doesn't have a lot of confidence in why she's here. And I think it's shown through somewhat, and that's something I don't feel bad or like think it's a bad thing to kind of talk about. She's not like as confident or as not as stupid as she kind of comes off as. It's kind of like a cover to be overly friendly so that she doesn't come across as weak or anxious about whatever situation she's in. And I think that that's kind of what makes her feel really easy to play for me, because I understand that place. I know what it's like to kind of mask anxiety and not having no confidence in being really friendly, or even saying things that you probably know in your head are kind of dumb to say. But you do it anyway because you don't want to reveal that you don't know what to say. I think Nova knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I won't comment on them because I believe you have videos coming out soon covering some of this.
Yes.
So yes, again, I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be great. I don't know how, like, I haven't seen much flaws so far from Saros. Like, obviously with his low wisdom, like that's a flaw.
I mean, Saros walks I didn't really realize this until it got pointed out in our last like session 0.4. But Saros walks a very fine line of murder hoboism, which is it got pointed out to me and I was like, oh, I can't fall down that trope hole. That's like the worst kind of player at a table. Because of Saros's mindset against mages and his devotion to his god and his higher calling, basically he hunts down mages for a living. Not that the gods pay very much at all. It's a living. But so that's like Saros is he is a walking liability to have in a group. He's a bit of he's not a loose cannon because he's very precise about how he does things. And when the party blew up a town and was like, we're doing it the Saros way, I was like, no, you're not. Absolutely, you're not. You've all been caught doing this. But it really did like highlight the point that Saros is a dangerous criminal. Who has murdered a lot of people, and that's a weird thing to cope with. I'm really interested in exploring the dynamic of like how does he justify that to himself, and how does he justify that to the party and everything else, which ties into his background that we haven't gotten into, and I'll save for the actual campaign and stuff. But yeah, he has a lot of like moral, ethical quandaries, dilemmas, gray lines, etc. That I think are his biggest flaw.
I think
he's also
really
stinky.
Yes, you're a little psychotic, Caleb. The thing that was interesting for me is everyone's like, oh, we have got into this kind of like assault on a building in our like pre-campaign game, and you were like, well, best just murder the mayor then, who's like half dead on the floor already. stunned. You could have left him there, but you're just like clunk. Well, now that job's done, and everyone like I think it was Nia and Shannon's character were both just like, what? Why? What? Like you just killed a man who was laying on the floor defenseless. And that's when I was like, yeah, you're a bit of a murder hobo. Like that was just straight up.
It's
murder.
also like a single-mindedness of like the two of them were inside a collapsing building. Leaf had been stabbed a couple of times. Auric was like hiding from guards around the corner. I was like, everybody needs help, but I'm gonna do what I came here to do, which was kill this guy. And yeah, it was really interesting, especially because I'm the party healer. Like I have all the heal spells. So just to make that decision was like, that was not an easy decision to make in that moment. So
yeah, okay. Mike, you want to go through your flaws?
Yeah. I think that the low wisdom on a leader type character definitely is going to get us in trouble. But I think like this sounds kind of like a job interview. Like, what's your greatest weakness? Like, oh, I care too much. But that is kind of one of Leaf's weaknesses. Is he cares too much. He cares too much about. He trusts nobody until you get right in close to him. He's a cat to his core, I guess. Like if you're a new person, if you're a stranger, like no hiss back. But then once you're in the inner circle, then he will die for you. And that's kind of, I think, going to be, and it sounds like in Nova's game, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to die for people, and it's going to be hard for him to not do that. I think if it comes to like having to choose between getting away safely while leaving someone behind, or maybe party wiping because he wants to save somebody, like he's not going to be able to make that call to leave someone behind. It's not in his nature. So I think that's going to end up being a problem for him.
I think, just so the audience knows, when everyone's like, oh, Nova's game is dangerous. Encounters aren't necessarily like all over the place, but when there's an encounter, even if they're just against like town guards are trained to put down people and put them in prison. They will come at them with tactics and they'll think things out most of the time, unless they're surprised. When it comes to actual monsters and like big bads, very, very powerful generally. And if you try just walk in without a plan, you have issues, which in our last campaign that Agent played in, that was a huge issue. People would walk into fights with no plans, and then people would just get splattered all over the ground quite often.
Planning is boring.
Yeah, but being like, we don't know what the monster is. We just know there's something killing people. Let's all go just fight it. And I'm like, you just run in and you just die. Like, so yeah. There's been some real rough fights in the past. I think this particular group, with the set of skills they have across them, will be able to at least do a bit better planning before they, just push in and start fighting stuff. I mean, shit, even in the pre-campaign, you guys did a bit of scouting out. It's just that, you got detected. Nia got detected. She was bad at it.
What? Which one are we talking?
Moving on.
How dare you spy on the mayor?
God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Yeah. This is the running joke, by the way, is that Nia's a child and we pick on her. So, Shelby.
Actually, yeah, no. There's like actually a counter I've been keeping track of in my character notes of every time Nia is called a child. Like, and I'm gonna tally it up at the end of all of this and see how many. But it's already past 10, and we've played like 4 times.
All right. Outlaw Lunatic. I think it's meant to be Outlaw, and he probably couldn't get it because Twitch. Outlaw Lunatic says, are they going to focus more on battles or character interaction, something else besides fighting? I guess that's meant to be for me. It'll be a bit of both. There'll be plenty of character interaction, plenty of times to talk to NPCs and get to know, each other, the town, all that sort of stuff. But when a fight comes, it'll be long, hard, lots of abilities being thrown around, things that like I'll save a monster's ability till it's like 3/4 dead, and they'll just be like, oh fuck, we have to deal with this now. So yeah, there'll be a lot for them to deal with. I think my encounters are pretty interesting usually. We've had some cool fights so far.
I think they're generally like you every fight often with you feels like a big boss encounter. And then also, I mean, having DM'd for this group before, I also know that like if you're trying to get them to do something, eventually they'll just be like, "Oh no, well we want to have we're gonna take a scene here. Everybody sit down for the next 20 minutes. We're gonna talk about something between the group of us." So we'll get a little. I think we're gonna have a little of both, honestly. So.
I mean, I think we're going to be trying to use character moments to avoid combat as much as possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I really like the mix we have, because I'm definitely a player that will spend an entire session having a role play with my party. But I like that the encounters feel like they mean something, where in other games I've played, they just felt like, grinding fodder and annoying. This feels like these encounters are real, they're dangerous, and they are a matter of life and death, like they should feel. So I think we've got a good mix.
The thing is, and I've always kind of been of the opinion of, is people with swords trying to put them in you is always going to be dangerous. It just because like your hit points get high, so you're like, it's only 1d8, whatever. So I tend to try to make it more so that it feels dangerous. Even if you're like, if you go fight, like I said, like a group of Town's Guard and you guys are level 12, those guards will be like, oh, we've seen that they're magic users and they're this and they're that. So what we're gonna do is get some, anti-magic friggin' arrows. If you get hit by that arrow, it's barbed, it stays in you. You can't cast spells. So they'll like see you, they'll plan for you, and then they'll shut you down. So you guys actually have to be like, oh, do I pull this out to do, just 10 unmitigatable damage, but I can use my spells again, or do I run? It'll become, a plan. And yes, that might be coming up in the future because you guys haven't found it yet, but let's just see how that goes. I think everyone's a caster. No, one person isn't a caster. One person in this party isn't a caster.
They cast axe.
Yeah, they do. And
it's a sword, clearly.
Goes. Holy shit, I'm taking this idea, that statistic. I love it. Yeah, sorry. It's me, I guess. Outlaw Lunatic also asks, is anyone going to get a pet? Someone's already got a pet, they're just not here today. If someone else wants a pet, they can have one. Does anyone else want to take a sweet little animal into these fights?
I'm not gonna lie. I want to, but I know it'll die because Nia's original character, she had a pet ferret, and I really wanted to include that. But I also know that animal's gonna die real quick. Yeah,
it's there's a reason why players tend to be like, I'll be a ranger with a pet, and they see the hit points and the AC and be like, I'm gonna leave it in the stables because it's my cute little baby and I don't want it to be hurt. So, or they just forget about it. Like I had a game where a player left its wolf on the side of a mountain for like 6 months and then was like, oh fuck, my wolf, and went back there and it just obviously it wasn't there. So yeah.
Aww.
Rangers. Anyways. Right. From, I'm gonna ruin your name, I apologize. Keira Anasi. What are the hardest parts about creating a competent yet interesting character? Any tips? What do you guys reckon?
I think the hardest part when I first started is having to acknowledge that nobody's perfect. When you write a character, you don't want to look at the bad, but you don't want to look at the flaws, especially if they're flaws you have, because you can carry a lot of insecurity about those flaws. But a well-rounded character isn't perfect. They have things they struggle with. They have flaws. Maybe they don't think things through all the time. Maybe they have a very quick temper. I think that when you sit down and you try to create flaws in the character and a reason they have those flaws and how these things affect them, and it also can give you roots in their backstory. oh, well, maybe my character doesn't have a good association with these kind of people because maybe they were raised by this kind of person. Like maybe this character doesn't like religious fanatics because they were raised in a cult. Or maybe this character has a problem with male figures because their father was not the greatest. I think it's when you kind of accept that people aren't perfect, even if you want this character you write to be perfect. And it allows you to kind of delve into psychology, and it gives you a much more stable foundation to make a believable, likable character. Because I guarantee you, any of your favorite characters in media have flaws that you can point out.
Yeah. I'm gonna expand on this point from a more, I guess, technical standpoint, which is your stats. Have a dump stat, and don't be afraid of it. I mean, having a character that, say, has like bad charisma, so they can't save against like a whole person, is a great thing. And play both your good parts and your bad parts. Set yourself up to fail against some saves. Like if you know, because especially like as you work with the DM and as you get to know your DM and they get to know you, if you can play up the negative aspects of your character, your DM shouldn't punish you for that. They should temporarily punish you for that, but really they should be rewarding you for that because it makes your character interesting. If you know you're going into a thing that you're gonna fail the save for, but it's something that your character would do because, you know, if you have bad wisdom and you rush into a thing because you're not wise enough to figure it out, and then you fail your wisdom save, like that makes sense. And you can be competent in ways that are not just like passing the roll. I mean, if you play a negative thing and you fail, but it's a funny moment, I mean, that's a competent thing. If you've told a good story about it, even if you've died gloriously because you played to your flaw, like that is competency. You know, D&D is not about winning the game, winning the encounter or whatever. It's about telling a good story about your character. And I think that's like, yeah, it's play your competencies and play them stat wise, and don't be afraid to lean into that, even if it means potentially the end of a character or you know, something bad happening. Something good can come out of anything bad, I guess is part of it.
What do you reckon, Mike?
Yeah, I love the dump stat. I really like when, you know, the stats can kind of tell you a lot about how you can play. I also like, I think the hardest part for me of making a competent and interesting character is the competent part. I tend to build specialists. So characters I build tend to be very, very good at one thing and generally like okay to bad at everything else. So that they get to do their one thing and really get their moment. Like in Kieran's game, Sloop was, I don't think I hit anything with a weapon in that campaign. He used sleight of hand because he had a +13 to sleight of hand, and so he did it in every scenario he possibly could, fighting up on a mast, trying to tie people up, pulling people's belts out. That was the kind of, you know, that sort of specialist type character, and playing to his strengths rather than swinging a sword at everything that came at him. And I think the other thing for like being interesting and stuff is forcing your character to have an opinion about a lot of things. When things come up, sometimes it's easy to like not care about them, and a lot of like cool characters and things will like not care about things, but forcing yourself to have an opinion on things that come up and then justifying it later, and then you can play the if this is true then what else is true game with them, can teach you a lot about your character's backstory that you get to use later. So every little encounter builds you a little bit more 3D for every other encounter later.
Yeah, I think they're all really solid answers. I think if you look at media, like you said, there are plenty of cases where people have made the super Mary / Marty Sue of just, this guy has no flaws, look at him go. But then you got things like really good ones like Rocket Raccoon, right? From Guardians of the Galaxy. high dex, middling strength, no con to speak of. But his dump stat's got to be charisma, right? Like he is an asshole, but he cares.
He's a lovable scamp.
He actually has cares very deeply. He's a broken character, and that's what makes him really interesting. And that's kind of what you want for your characters. You sit there and you go, cool, I'm a ranger, so I can hunt, I'm stealthy, and I can track things. And you specialize in things that make you what you want to be. You formulate your personality and, like you said, a couple of opinions on both what you believe in and what you're against. I tend to also make sure I have a few friends and family that I can name and reasons I like them or dislike them. Their family, their reasons why I don't get along with them, but maybe you still love them. And then another family member that has a similar sort of thing, but you just straight dislike them. You never get along. You don't care for them at all. So when something comes up that's similar to, it creates sort of nuance, and it's more interesting to work with. So
the friend and enemy rule is a really fun one to make in character creation. Just like making sure you have one ally and one rival, for example, that maybe only you know about them. You can give them to your DM, and they're a great tool to give to your DM. They could give them a lot of fodder. But it also just makes you think man, if I have a rival, if I have someone who is defined as a rival, I must have done something awful to someone, I have a flaw because this person sees it,
Yeah.
I think making sure, I think writing in as much background as you possibly can is another way to really round your character out. What are their family ties? Are they still close connected with this family? Do they have another group of people that they were connected with? What the hell were they doing before they became an adventurer? Because, healthy, well-adjusted people don't just decide to, go out into the world and, make little to no money and fighting monsters that could kill them any day. So I think that there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself. One of my DMs actually gave us a template that I still use today that's just very basic questions. Who are you? Why are you doing? What are you doing? What are your motives? Name someone you've wronged. I think that they're important things to ask yourself when you are creating a character, because they're things I don't think you think about yourself as why am I doing this thing? Why am I pursuing this goal in my life right now?
All right. This could be an entire conversation on itself. I keep thinking of more things to add, but I'm just gonna move on. I think maybe later on down the track we'll do a how-to guide on a character. That'd be a good YouTube video. Good thought, me. We'll do that.
It's a good question.
Yeah, really, really good question. Okay. That one has been repeated by... Okay, so AJ, the whole cast. What are you guys excited for the most with this campaign? Is it not dying?
Yeah, I'd like to not die, but I'm not confident I'm not going to die. Nia as a character I think is going to be fleeting. I think I'm going to have to come up with a backup. But I'll enjoy her while I can.
Okay. But what are you actually excited for? You kind of have a basic idea of what's coming ahead of you. I gave you a very brief sort of rundown of what the whole campaign's meant to be about as a sort of a launching point for you to start. So what are you looking forward to?
Honestly, I think I'm just excited for the experience of this party in general. Like I said before, my favorite thing about D&D is the collaborative story element. Everybody's personalities coming together and adding something new to this really crazy plot that you've presented us. And I can't wait to see how we either walk right into your plans or completely destroy them and force you to make new ones right on the spot.
I have about 12 branches to the story. So if you manage to not follow one of them or move between them, if you manage to go outside of them, well done. That is not an invitation to try. Just be like, we are sailing this ship into a hurricane. Beat that, DM. But you know,
Oh, we're dead.
I do try to plan for all eventualities. So very rarely am I kind of like, oh, the players did a thing I'm shocked about. I thoroughly read your character sheets most of the time, and I go, okay, they could use this, or this in the scenario, which could result in one of these things, and I just have this like flow chart of insanity that every now and again my girlfriend looks at. It's like, why? They're not going to do 3/4, 9/10 of this. Yeah, I have to. It's just
But
how
they
I
might.
prep. But they might. If they don't, I now have like 10 adventures planned, like for other things. Or
It never
based on
goes
that.
to waste.
No. All right. Kieran, what are you excited for?
Killing mages and getting paid. I mean, I am excited for both of those things, but honestly, I know that the campaign is like a role reversal Tyranny of Dragons, which is a module that I've never read. I mean, I wouldn't be playing. I'm sure I wouldn't be playing if I've read it. But I've been very excited about it. I think it's a really cool concept. This multi-headed queen of, like, I know about Tiamat through other mediums and everything else. But I'm always excited to play through an official adventure, even if I haven't played through it, and even if it's not actually the adventure. Like, so I'm really curious as to see what you're gonna do with it, and then I don't know. I'll end up maybe playing the actual module down the line, and I'll get to be like, oh, cool. Oh, I see. Well, that's neat what he did there. You know, so it's I don't know. I'm excited about not just this adventure, but like the adventures that will follow afterwards. Also, I mean, this is like the third campaign I've played with you in this world.
Yeah.
I think. So I've learned a
Yeah.
lot about the history of the world and your own homebrew and everything else. And you know, it's a lot. Nova's got this like insanely huge document that he's written about like the entire world. It's very detailed. I have not read it all. I think Vegemite's maybe the only one who has. But it's cool, and I really like. I'm invested now, so I just want to know what happens next.
Yeah. I've had people be like, oh yeah, cool, send me that document. I love homebrew. Just absorb that shit. Just, yeah, it'd be really cool to read it. And I'm like, here you go, here's 120,000 words. And like, nah, actually, I got shit on. Like, that's a lot. that's just far too much. And the idea isn't
the Cimmerillion, like
yeah, it's not meant to be so that you can learn the entire world. It's meant to be so you can go, I am from this place and do this thing, and you just take the bits you need, and it helps you inform your characters. But yeah, you've been like a big part of the world with your characters. I mean, shit, your last one's now a god.
Yeah.
Because it was a case of you kind of went there and you're like, this is the last god of your pantheon was like, we're all dead, please help us. And you're like, yes,
Oh, no.
I guess.
I just want to go to bed.
Yeah, and you had gone there to die. Your character's like, I'm a human and about 600, I just want to die. And your god's been like, yeah, but could you actually do this instead? And you're like, I guess that's what I could do. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, which is an interesting sort of thing for your character to go through. And yeah, he's the god of travel, wandering a little bit in trickery and mischief, but mostly, you know, look after travelers, provided they're nice people.
So it's a lot.
So,
I'm excited about a lot, I guess it is. Yeah.
Mike.
I mean, now that you're saying that the gloves were on for this particular part, so I'm excited to see the gloves come off. My little Rudy Tooty kitty cat shooting crossbows at literal gods. We'll see how that goes, but I think it's going to spur some very creative problem solving, which I'm excited to see everybody get into. I'm excited to see everyone release their true powers I feel like all of us in the party have kind of seen what Leaf can do, and I have not scratched the surface of what everybody else can do. So I'm really excited to see everybody let loose, and just like go bananas on the next crazy thing Nova throws at us. And if we're talking about becoming gods, like I'm excited to do that. Can't wait to become a god. God of the unlucky, god of the fuzzy who trips over his own shoelaces, like into it.
I actually kind of like the idea of like a god of being unlucky, and people pray to him to be like, "Don't visit me. Just leave me and my family alone."
Yeah,
Please.
and then like
Visit my enemies.
Offering.
Just comes like rolling down the chimney and into the room, just knocking over vases and stuff like that. Like, oh, are you called?
I mean, then he'd just be an actual cat at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 a.m.
So because there were no gods in my world, Pantheon has been slowly created as more people have sort of reached a power level and then done something to trigger that. It's not an easy thing.
Survive.
You have to survive first of all.
That's step one. That's the main thing you got to
Yeah.
do is survive through one of Nova's campaigns.
But like, you know, your character Dom became a god, right? And that was mostly by being the whole party being given artifacts of the gods, like the last remnants of their power, because all the gods were dead. And the characters were slowly becoming infused with that power, except all the other characters died. So Dom kept picking up all these artifact items and just amplifying himself up. And then he then was cursed with immortality. So he was like, cool, instead of being like a mortal who would just eventually die and this wouldn't be much of, the artifacts just lay for someone else, he just absorbed that for half a millennia. So, you know, when the last full-fledged member of the Pantheon was like, oh, hey, your body's ready for this. Could you do me a favor? And zap, you're a god now. Gave up his divine spark. So, yeah, the other gods like had insanely unlucky or lucky effects to become the way they were. So if that's something you guys want to attain, you need to get to like, you know, much higher levels, play for like a year, and then see how it goes.
I don't think Nia should be a god of anything. I think the world will be destroyed.
I mean, you could be the god of innocence. It's fine.
I'd be a god that was killed very quickly.
Yeah. All of your worshippers are just like naive and just like walk in front of like dragons, like, oh, big kitty.
Follow by example, I guess.
Yeah. Right. So there was the question: are the characters going to be lawful good, chaotic evil, or what? So asking for alignments. With that, I tend to be fairly. I like the look of like alignment fluid. Like they kind of start off close to a point, but they will on every action that can change, right? So I guess we could get a basic idea of what you guys are starting at. I don't need as chaotic evil, so we can ignore her.
Yeah, I'm just the chat's already outed me. I'm just a chaotic evil eldritch abomination from the far realm, masking as this cute little girl. Really, Nia is I like to think she's very lawful good. I think that she fluctuates between lawful and neutral, but I think that she, at her core, just tries to do the right thing. And she has a very naive but strict idea in her head on what the right thing is. And she wants to believe that that right thing is going to do right by everybody. So, but unfortunately, that's just not how the world works. So I think that will be challenged in this campaign. And I think by the time it's over, she might fall closer to chaotic good. But
yeah, I think
remains to be seen.
Fits.
I think that remains to be seen.
I think she starts as chaotic good. Just from what I know about her background, there's been a few times where people have been like, could you do this? It's kind of what we need you to do. And you're like, obligated to do, and you've been like, yes, until you walk around the next corner and you're like, nah. So
I think that she tries to do the right thing. She's not always able to follow through, but she really does try to do what is socially accepted as the right thing.
She willingly surrendered to those town guards and got herself locked up.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well,
that
I
was
mean,
a
to be
pretty-
fair,
that's a
she
pretty
didn't even
lawful
realize.
good act, I think.
I will say, to be fair, she didn't know she was being arrested until she was already in the cage. So...
Yeah. What about you there, Saros?
According to my character sheet, I am lawful neutral, which I think about and I think is like probably pretty correct. Saros abides by a very strict set of rules. Magic bad is the best way to sum it up. And yeah, I mean, he kind of kills good and evil people. Yeah, he follows the rules. I mean, I would say lawful neutral or possibly even true neutral. But I think he's more lawful. That's my final answer.
Because your character's worships the god of magic, Ophelia, who sits above like this council of gods that each like control one of the schools. And your whole thing is making sure that stays balanced, right? So like you just that fire mage is too powerful. Go kill it so it's not pissing off all these water mages. So yeah.
Everything changed when the water mages attacked.
Yes. I could see you like something was forming in your head. It was like shaking your head a bit. I was like, come on.
Something stupid was forming in my head, and I was like, oh, right, I'm on camera live. Well, I might as well say it.
What about you, Mike?
I would say probably between chaotic neutral and neutral good. Somewhere in there. I think like he does try to do good, but what he thinks of as good changes kind of on the fly. So I think probably chaotic neutral. He's he definitely doesn't care about committing crimes.
I feel like you try to do what's good, but not necessarily what's right all the time. Like there's a bit of a difference there, and that what might be good in this situation just happens to also be exceptionally good for Leaf. So you're like, oh yeah, I can benefit from this. I can see, am I hurting anyone? Not really, so I'm gonna do it. Until it comes down to the actual killing of mages with your good buddy.
He avoids the killing if possible, but like sees Saros has got something to do, and he's like, well, this is from something higher than I understand. So, if that god thinks this person's going to do terrible things, then I guess Saros got a Saros. The media.
They all got money, and then like can't use that money when you're dead. So
that's true. Lots of fancy items to steal as well.
Yeah.
So I have one final question, but I think it's been covered by Gates Night to all, which was there any media inspiration you base your characters off? Which we've kind of gone through with Cowboy Bebop and Firefly for both Leaf and Saros, and Nia is more based off just yourself, right, Shelby?
Sort of. It's her personality is very much like stuff I draw from myself, but like what her actual inspiration is like when I first came up with it, her idea was another YouTube creator, Esper the Bard. He came up with a video that talked about all of the known lore from Forgotten Realms about dragons and dragonoids, and that got me really interested in a character that like had a strong semblance to dragons, and that kind of morphed into Nia's ties with Bahamut.
Okay. Right. I was gonna ask a question. My head has just gone blank. That's right. So I thought for this, you guys could sort of what do you guys know is meant to be happening at the start of the campaign? What is the like hook that you've got to go on? What's your like actionable thing?
Like why we're here?
Well, not the full length of why we're here. That's a very far-reaching, but more, you guys are running away because you killed a town, and you're meant to be heading to a place to do a thing. So let's just start with that small.
Are we like?
We heard that there's gold in them hills.
My friend's supposed to be there. I went to find him.
Okay. What about you, Mike? One's after gold, one's after a friend.
One is, I mean, geez, gold. Leaf loves gold. But Leaf has also found a new little family. So he's got to do his darndest to keep them safe, and hopefully in the process find some closure for his past. I think a lot of like ripples of the past are pushing him in this direction. His little leaf boat on the water is getting pushed. That's as deep as I could make it on
Okay.
I apologize in advance for making Leaf's job of keeping his little party alive difficult.
So he's gonna make it hard enough himself.
Yeah, there's some good party hooks already. Like I just think of Saros, who it took a pretty long time to bind with Leaf, I think, in her backstory, but like he's met Auric now, who is a mage of the time variety. We'll get to meet him next week. But Saros is fascinated by him already. Like he's already like, you break a lot of the concepts of magic users in my head, and I don't know as a player how Saros feels about Auric yet, but there's been a lot of we had a lot of interesting little quips back and forth in the pre-sessions. So and yeah, I don't know, like we've seen Nia already like take a bullet for the team. Like there really is. I'm already seeing the family character dynamic come up pretty strong already. So
yeah,
I think Nia is just very she doesn't like being by herself, and you guys are an interesting group. So she's just kind of sticking around. She questions it at times, but I think she genuinely likes having such interesting company. You're so unlike people she's ever been around before.
I think because at the moment, so to explain the hook to just the audience really quickly, at the moment it's they have done something wrong in a nearby town, and they're trying to get away from here while heading to another city. In that city, it's effectively like the UN is holding conference to deal with an issue, and they're like, we have been getting bits and pieces of information about that issue, so we would like to know more about it for different reasons, because the issue's to do with dragons. And some people know dragons have gold, so have decided they would try to find out where these dragons are to get gold. Others are like, I think my friend is out looking for said dragons, so we need to know where they are. Let's talk about this. Let's see if we can get into this UN meeting. Whether they get in legitimately or break in will be the question, which I'm
not a
very
question.
interested to see.
Is the answer.
Yes, I know.
I just want to point out, we were framed. We didn't do shit.
That town was doomed without us.
Listen, it was a rock from the building that fell on the mayor's head.
I mean, Saros killed the mayor. I'll admit that was a bad thing, but like a lot of that was a series of unfortunate events in which we looked like the bad guys when really one of us got essentially kidnapped.
The last question I'm gonna ask before we start moving towards the wrap up. We've been here for about an hour and a half. I know we've got another stream on a couple hours after this, so we've got to get that sorted and prepped. Fireproof Heretic, who I think has just gone to bed, asked what is Nia's wallet patron, which is probably a secret you're gonna keep. Is that right?
I will say it's not what you think. her patron is interesting. And it's very, very deeply connected into who Nia actually is. And I think you guys will find it really interesting when it does come out who her warlock patron is.
I thought that was a joke question. I didn't even realize Nia was a warlock.
If let's have a game of this in the chat. I'd like everyone to just guess at what the patron could be. I'm gonna write it down, and if anyone actually gets it right, I will probably send them like a bag of dice or something. I'll just like buy a bag of dice and send it off. So let's see. Come on,
yeah,
girls.
I'll be genuinely impressed if any of you guys can actually name what her patron is.
Christian Jesus from Agent. You got it in one, buddy.
Nailed it. So
Yeah,
Korean
she is a
Oh,
sweet
Korean
little
Jesus.
child of the Lord.
All right. So oh god, not to insult like a whole lots of people, but yes, we have Jesus as one. What next? A noble genie.
Ooh, a noble genie. That's a good bet.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
I love how Sean just
specifically-
immediately jumps to Tiamat.
Noble genie, Marin / Levistus, in case it's a fiend. Which one do you want to lean into more? I'll allow one guess per player. Per one guess player.
I mean, Arik's been mistaken for her dad quite a few times, so you know.
And then so noble genie or fiend, and then Levistus sounds more fun. All right, so we're getting rid of noble genie and just going with Levistus. Then we've got Levistus / Ice Fiend, because you know he is the guy that runs that.
Because clearly.
We've got Tiamat, a bear and a wizard hat. Feel like that's. I mean, sure, whatever.
Give me them dice.
Sir Barrington, is that you?
If I was gonna have a warlock patron that was any bear, it would be Trinket.
If there's no more guesses, well, I'll give it 30 more seconds. Right. So, is there anything you want to say about the pre-campaign, your characters, anything else before we wrap this up?
Pre-campaign was pretty intense, which makes me really excited for when the gloves come off and we're live. Like some of those sessions left me like unable to stop thinking about them for 2 weeks because we were doing them bi-weekly, where I was like, oh god, am I going to be able to get out of this thing? Or like what's going to happen, like when I got locked in a cage and I couldn't do anything, and while like I just knew my party was being attacked, and I'm like, oh, I look forward to that again. That's going to be fun.
The Heart of the Plains campaign, I left the players mostly crying, and then some of them were like, I had to go for a walk through the park at midnight to calm down afterwards. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
People cried
get-
so much in that campaign. I've never seen that before.
I guarantee I'll
That's
cry
awesome.
at least once, but I'm also a huge baby and I cry at everything. So
Yeah, that campaign was emotionally brutal. So yeah. All right, what about you? What about you, Agent? Any stories or anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. Like, Heart of the Plains was effectively like a level 17 through 20 campaign. So it was, you know, everything we fought was like CR 25 and above. So I'm excited to get what feels like a low level campaign on level 12. Yeah, I'm. Part of me is like, he's got to follow some of the rules because it's based on a book, a source book. But I know that that's not true. We've already fought a creature from like Pathfinder. Yeah, I'm really excited to play. You know, I was playing 3 games on the channel, and you know, I've moved in the last like 2 months, and it's like the longest I've been in the last 2 years not playing a game on Twitch with you guys. So I'm just really excited to get back in the hot seat. I'm stoked. I'm really stoked for this campaign. So
on the topic of, you know, high level campaign, the last one, I think you got in a fight with a demigod of the hunt, which was about CR30. You and he had a duel of archery. I believe it got called off, actually. You did hit it really hard though. But then Teague pulled off some crap, which is just her character. And then another point, another character soloed Baphomet, the demon lord.
yeah.
So like we had some crazy fights. That same character had to hold his own against almost 1,000 Baelors for a while, which does sound completely over the top, and was, but there was a time limit on it. So, and they can't all come in at once because, you know, squares and the grid of how things actually work, they couldn't all fit. But yes, it was a flock of scary demons.
I know you do these like big epic fights really well, and I'm just like, we're gonna be probably fighting an 8-headed dragon at the end of this campaign. And that's just like a really exciting capstone to be like, I'm like, whoa, that's gonna be a juicy fight. I hope I'm alive by the time it happens.
I hope we're alive. I hope we lived with like the entire party to get to see that moment.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 limbs left. I'm ready for session 1. See how many more of those we can get rid of.
I hope we don't lose any more.
Stick old Leaf on a skateboard and roll him behind the caravan. He's good to go.
Just get one of those German helmets with the spike, and you can still help.
Yeah, I'll just get Saros to throw me at people.
You just become the new meteor hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leaf on a string.
Sure, I'm just gonna die, come back as an artificer, and build you a robot.
Yeah. I've got mad backup characters, so.
Yeah. I think everyone should have one, just in case, but don't expect to use it. I hope. For the timeline, for people that have been in our previous games and watched, so we had roughly 600 years prior to the current campaign was the first one that Asia played in. It was called Vanny's Quest. It was about a character that was trying to help the gods not die. They failed by getting one of like Zeus's thunderbolts, which was Zeus in a thunderbolt that had like crashed into a mountain. It got trapped there. That was that one, and at the end, Kieran's previous character, or Age's previous character, Dom, was the only survivor, granted immortality. 500 and X years later, Heart of the Plains started, and they went through from the material plane to the Feywild to the shadow plane to a demi-plane of a god of knowledge and mystery to the realms of death is what I call it, which is it's like pretty much the negative energy plane, but not as oh god I just got obliterated, because it is a negative energy plane, and then to the like castle of the god of death, which is where only one character made it that far, and then back again. So but when they stepped out of the portal back into the material plane, only 2 characters making it that far of the 4. A few years have passed, so it is now, it's only a few months, really about 6 months after the end of the previous campaign, but in terms of when they actually stepped out of the portal to now, but from the start of the previous campaign to now in the material realm, about 5 years have passed. So it's been like a hefty chunk of time. Time and planes moving at different speeds is always a headache, but I like it. So yeah. Right. Wait, Shadowfell. I know Edgelord Land TM. Yes. Not wrong. The Shadowkai. Our Shadowkai wasn't really an edgelord. He was
happy-go-lucky as
They're
could
a
be.
very interesting race.
Yeah.
I think that they can do cool things with them if you just kind of circumvent expectations.
that his Australian accent made me want to just power drill to the ears. So yes, all right. I'm gonna go once more round. I want you to tell us where you're from, what you do, as much or as little detail as you want, and then we'll say our goodbyes. So, Shelby.
Well, like I said, my name is Shelby. I'm from the channel Wystle While You Work, where I tell stories of my D&D antics and draw whatever fun fantasy stuff comes to mind. You can find me on Twitter at WhistleWist, spelled Wystle, on YouTube at Wystle While You Work, or on Instagram at Wystle While You Work.
All right. Agent number 1.
I am Agent Number 1. You can find me here on Twitch, where I'm going to be streaming again, starting this upcoming Monday. And for the unforeseeable future. I'm really excited. I've just been putting a ton of work to get my stream back up and running, and I'm going to be coming back part-time and working my way towards full-time. You can also find me at Wonders and Blunders, which I'll leave for Mike to tell you a little bit more about, but is a little podcast. A little podcast thing there. Yeah, that's where you find me on the internet. Yeah.
What games do you think you're going to be playing while you stream?
I'm going to be starting with Total War, as that's been my original wheelhouse. But I play strategy games and I play games with immersive stories. Is my big jam. So things like RimWorld or Crusader Kings, where there's no real main narrative, except for the narrative that you kind of build as you play. So.
All right. And lastly, Mike.
Yeah, Mike Fardy. I am the DM for the Wonders and Blunders podcast. So it is difficult to find me online, so find them instead at Wonder and Blunder on Twitter. We've got a website. We've got like 61 episodes out. We're like a horror comedy D&D podcast. It's a load of fun. We've got a very cute little family vibe. Outside of that, I'm just a screenwriter and I hang out with my cats, and that's pretty much it. Here's one. So yeah, check out Wonders and Blunders, says Dipper. He's extremely asleep.
Yeah, I can see. He's just the floppiest cat ever. Right, and I am Nova or Nova One. I am one half of the creators of Roll for Damage. We have games on our channel on Monday night. Is a Humblewood game. I cannot remember the start time off the top of my head. I'm going to scroll down on the stream and hopefully it says, otherwise Veg is going to put it in 8 p.m. Thanks, Veg. Covered me really quick. That was super smooth. Didn't make a fool of myself. Yeah. So 8 p.m. is for that one. Humblewood campaign 5e. All the characters are great. The cast of Australian actors, it's really, really top quality stuff. Check it out. It's always a laugh. We have on Wednesday night, we have a Starfinder game, which is kind of like a Ridley Scott Aliens / Event Horizon themed game, where things are just going from bad to worse for that crew. It's pretty good as well. It's entertaining. I would recommend that. That is at also at 8 p.m. I believe. I
think the finale is this week.
I think they got 2 more. They got one or 2 more. Final episode this week. There we go.
There you go. Boom. Bam.
And then you can also check us out on the Game in Australia website, channel. Sorry, at the moment we're doing an Eberron campaign, which producer Veg is running. So there's that, and then on the Saturday morning for us, Friday night for those in the in the US, is this Scales Above game, my own homebrew world based on the Rise of Tiamat campaign book for this particular campaign, and I've been looking forward to it. Set up for a while, so hope to see you next week for the interview with Shannon and Sean, and I'll answer any questions about the world that I can. I've already got some lined up from people in the chat and our Discord. If you want to go to our Discord and ask questions there, say hi, get to know people, there's a link below. Veg will drop one in the chat. We've also got our Twitter, our YouTube, linked below, our Instagram as well. All of our VODs go onto the YouTube nowadays. They didn't used to because I forgot to record a couple of them. So like Vanny's Quest isn't there. The Warhammer game, I believe, is on the VODs on Twitch, but not on the channel. But we have Heart of the Plains, we have the Ruffians, we have the Humblewood game, we'll have the Eberron game, and we'll have Scales Above going up there as well. So they'll all be there for you to watch, usually within a week from the time that it's streamed. Anyways, as usual, at the end of any of our streams, we find someone within the community to raid, and I pass it across to Producer Veg to say hi and cover anything I might have forgot. So take it away, Producer Veg.
I mean, you covered pretty much everything right there, and my mic is probably sounding awful right now because I forgot to set up my noise suppression. Hey guys, how you going, Producer Veg? Yeah, no, you covered pretty much everything. The only thing you didn't cover is what's going on literally 2 hours from now, an hour and a half from now, which right here on this channel, we are hosting a PAX panel. This is with Generosity, which is an Australian group which manage charities in conjunction with Cure Cancer Australia Foundation, which is a fantastic cause to get behind. We are hosting a D&D game here with Big Viking Mitch as the DM, running a group called the, I'm going to screw this up because I've just thought about it, the Knifey Spoony Crew. And that features Tyrannid, Tolga, Townie, Marilia, and Moonlit Charlie, a bunch of partnered streamers coming in to do some crazy D&D action. And they're playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist for 8 hours. So it's going to be a big, long-ass stream. I'm going to be here in chat all day, so you can come either here on Roll for Damage, you can watch it on the Generosity channel, or you can get on the PAX 3 stage. So come and join us and have some fun. It's going to be absolutely epic, and I can't wait for it. So that is it. With that, we are actually going to raid Generosity themselves, because why not? We actually just got a raid as well. Jeez. We just got raided by Waffles Maple Syrup. Someone knows what I like to eat. Thank you so much for the raid, guys. Yeah. And I want to thank everybody who's showed up in the chat, chucked us those follows, the subscribers. As Nova said before, it means a lot that you guys are here supporting the channel. It's amazing. And of course, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors for the game, Dungeon Fog and Hero Forge. If you're looking to make yourself some fantastic dungeon maps, you can go to dungeonfog.com and build your own maps on their online builder. It's really simple and easy to use. I can't put it anymore. I've been using it constantly for like the last 3 months. And Hero Forge, if you want to get custom minis, you can jump onto heroforge.com and build custom minis, have them printed by Hero Forge and sent out to you. And they have so many races, like ridiculous amounts of races. You can build a bear person. You can actually build Sir Barrington if you wanted to. That would be rad.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
Right. Sir
There's
Barrington.
so much customization with Hero Forge. It's kind of insane.
Indeed. And we've got some videos going up soon, I believe. Yeah.
Hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Wicked. Of these guys building their characters in Hero Forge going on the YouTubes. So get on it. Get on that YouTube. I'm going to plug it again in the chat. But yeah, we're going to go and raid Generosity. We'll say goodbye to you guys, and I'll see the rest of you who will stick around in about an hour and a half's time. No, an hour and a half? What time is it? Yeah, an hour and a half's time. For the Generosity stream for PAX Online. So, say goodbye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Stay on.